again, it means a bunch to us. Thank you all for coming. It's our first one. We didn't know who all would make it and what the crowd would look like, and we're very pleased that that y'all felt the need to travel near and far to get here to look through these things with us and work with us and try to get as many of you guys in one place at a time. Just for the sake, we're about to get into, collection season. I mean, there's going to be some of these have to get jumped in 2 days, and it's going to be a lot harder to view them a couple times during the week. So thank you all for being here. Like I said, each one we feed in front of are ones that that we're planning on breeding sows ourselves. They've all got a place in our program. I mean, you're going to see 7 or 8 red boars. I'm not telling you I have 50 red sows, but each one of them have a plan. And what we are trying to do and places that we feel like they certainly fit, where we can keep trying to ultimately move toward what we deem, the ideal animal and try to get as close as we can. Never seen a perfect one, but that doesn't mean don't try. So that's all we're going to be after here. Again, we try to have fun doing this, but this is what we do for a living. When you leave, the kids are walking pigs, they're cleaning pens. We'll be on the floor and in the sow barn, scraping, checking heat, doing all the things pig ranchers do. So thank y'all again for coming, and we'll do our best to kind of get through these in a timely fashion. If we get done and some people are a little bit late, we may circle back and start over again and run through them a couple times if we need to. If y'all have got somewhere to be and you've seen what you came to see and feel like you need to get on the road, no harm, no foul, not going to hurt our feelings at all. At the end of the day, we're all hog breeders. So are y'all ready? They're going to run the first one out. This red boar here will be on page 27. This is the one we call Further. Be a boar that we bred, be a forward understatement. Back behind the understatement will be be a boar we called Limit Up, that was a creation son. And then behind him would be Forward's mother. So that old double up sow will be in there a couple different times. Understatement was a boar we bought from Brock Heron at the Spring Holy Smoke sale a couple years ago, with the intent of trying to get Understatement and Forward both in the same pedigree multiple times if we could do it. And the more we're able to do that, the more it's coming together like we always hoped it would. His mother was one that we showed early last winter. The further we got into the season, to be honest, the more we felt like her role was more on the male side, bears and boars. We didn't feel like as we got into the season that she was probably going to be an appropriate enough size for her age. She was more on the moderate side. Doesn't really scare me away in our red program, because at the end of the day, there's 80 years of great big tall skinny red ones in every Durox pedigree. And so the place for some of those more moderate ones that are really, really shapely in terms of their loin edge are ones that will always find a home here. And so I think that's kind of the culmination of what we've been trying to do. A lot of our pigs, and you'll see as we go through and see some of these other red boars, are really, really stout noggined and round headed. And as such, we needed to find one that was maybe just a little sharper fronted. And I think he kind of fits that bill. Him and the In Theory boar will walk out here later. And so we're going to breed him to some of them just kind of stouter noggered ones that need to be better looking. And we'll do so without, taking you the wrong direction in terms of bone, shape, spread, mass, those types of things. This one we call Sleight of Hand. He'll be a Blue Magic, the other one W. He's one of the couple boars I mentioned earlier that's maybe fighting a little bit of a hip injury here a couple weeks ago. He's doing better now. Blue Magic did a tremendous job for us, and you'll see him, and I hope you're as impressed with him as we are and the way we're utilizing that boar. This boar here will actually be a littermate brother to Magic Show that's there at Premium Blend, that we would have sold at Gary Todd's farm sale there early in the summer. This pig was actually slated to go to a live sale in Texas, and when it was time for him to go, we didn't know if he was just big and just ready enough. He was green and just young at that time, so we rolled him over and we actually took him to the first Kings of the Hill. And it's no harm, no foul. We had another pig there that was very popular, and I don't know that anybody ever saw that one. And that's fine. That's where we had the White Magic son that Wintex buys, they call Brotherly Love. That pig was very good, and I just don't know that anybody ever saw this one, and I'll be honest, we bought him back for $1,000. I'm going to breed lots of sows to that pig. price determines ownership. The fact that we bought him back at that price doesn't affect me any. If it does you, that's fine. Just feel like that thing's just looseness of shoulder, broadness of upper blade, skull. And we got to say it because it's a world we live in. Hair's dang good. Stout and loose built. We probably hadn't worked on his showmanship skills enough, or maybe Sam just needs to practice more, or one of them. But that one just kind of got a shape of the type of pigs that we believe in. And that litter was tremendously good. There's a gilt running around Texas that we leased out that's doing an awfully good job. There's a littermate sister here that's down on the floor that's as impressive of one for a sow prospect as we've probably got down there. So that'll be sleight of hand. This red boar coming here will be a boar we call No Regrets. We would have bought him from the crew there at Tres Amigos at perfect timing this year. I believe it took $19,000 to get him bought. He is on page 26. That'll be a Bar None, which is a high rent one that Laird's bought from buyers 2 years ago, or 2 PTs ago rather. Bar None triple threat creation. Thing looks pretty similar to what he did the day we bought him. Just really loose built, big ankled, comfortable, stout, good hair, appropriate, safe going away, rugged fronted. He's probably going to fit a little bit different sow than what Further's probably going to fit. We're probably going to watch him a little bit just on tidiness of lower front end, just throat latch and that kind of stuff. But other than that, I mean, if we get gilts and females and even bearers out of that thing that's just that stout and comfortable, in that particular breed, I think we're going to be okay. Pigs that are just going to be easy to feed and get along fine. So it takes all kinds, and that one's, we're very pumped about the way that one's just continued to stouten. The way he's always moved has just been really fun to get out and just watch him walk. Muscle texture might be a tick softer in him, I would gather. As far as the way he's going to sire versus what Further will do. Further might be just a tick firmer up top. That one will probably have a little bit more give to his spine. This is Outcast, the Lone Burke boar through all the sorting of this coming crop. I'll be honest, here about 2 months ago, he got a little sick on us and coughed pretty hard there for a few days and kind of got his shoulders a little bit out of whack, but come out of it fine, and that just represents the type of Burks that we try to put together here. Skull shape, still being attractive up front, really shapely up high, stout down low and comfortable. You know, we've always tried to keep, and those of you that seen the Burks that our kids have drove, I mean, we always try to keep them things very, very big and shapely up high. I feel like that's a trait that in that particular breed is easy to lose and hard to go find and get it back. Even when you see unit, you'll see something similar there. So that one will be an Outlaw, reach high, just a bit outside. So his grandmother would be that boar we called Rogue's littermate sister. And he is actually maybe on the younger side of what some of these younger ones are. But with that said, I think there's probably just one of this new crop of boars that I don't know that he'll be ready to go for probably a month. The little crossbred boar we bought from Blim we'll look at here in a minute. But the balance of these, I actually jumped him last Thursday. Semen's good and ready to go. Even though he's maybe a shade over 5 months old, or right at it. Semen looks good. This is Vanity. So this will be the pig we buy from Blim. Barn Burner Genetics there at Holy Smokes this year for like $17,000. I'll be honest, that was one of my favorite dark crosses we saw all season. Didn't think he'd cost as much as he did, but he did. That thing hit me very, very hard in the preview that day. He'll be an unrivaled icon, so he'll be out of the same sow that, gosh dang it, Inclusion's out of. Is that right? That's there at Hoff Schulte's. I thought that thing's proportions and length and levelness of hip versus length of leg and body, I thought was very good. And had, for one that was just, you know, still immature and green, things got great big feet and ankles. As he matures and just continues to stout, and I'm very excited with the way he's going to look in a month. Like I said, I told y'all in the barn we weren't going to hide these things and keep them in regardless of maturity pattern or what they might have gone through so far. It's a pig farm. Everybody accepts facts. I remember we're going to get sick from time to time and things ain't going to go just right, but we're in a holding pattern waiting for that one to mature just enough. That one's going to get a fair, he's going to get a shot. Keaton's been working really, really hard with this pig, trying to get him convinced to come all the way to the end. And so we'll see if he gets it done. This will be the boar we call Break Glass. He'll be a clone. When we lost the original, I guess it'd be a year ago last Wednesdays when all that happened. So this is kind of our coming out closet from a year later. That's how long it took to rebuild it all, I guess. And I'll be honest, you know, growing up in Idalou, I had my fair share of seeing lots of really, really good Chester boars over the years. And when that original died at 320 pounds, that was maybe my single favorite Chester pig I'd ever seen. As far as what we're trying to make, I'll tell you, versus the original, I would give him maybe another, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks and he'll go through a vertical stage. That other one did too. They got to a point where they grew up some and then all the proportions were right on par. Big chested, good looking, broad stout. Different pedigree than what you'll find in most places. I mean, kind of a fresh shot in a lot of ways. That didn't go 20 sow. Didn't go 20 was a boy that Brandon Kale had here in the state. He was a rear-end Jeter 5'2" chili dog, if I remember correctly. So lots of fresh shots of some older blood in there. Behind the didn't go 20 sow was our original Chester female, where our Chester firm started. That was a twister sow that we bought from Ace Genetics. They're in Littlefield, Texas at the Texas Elite deal there in Kerrville. I was choring one day and Sam called me. The twins were little. She had them up in the house and said, hey, you need to run up here and look at this Chester that's showing. So I ran up to the house and she goes, I think she's 5th. And when they opened the 5th place gate, this Chester gilt took off like a rocket. And I think that little girl did everything she could just to catch her. But that thing was just stout and just great built and still good looking. And so that twister sow's where it all started. I'm not one that really probably studies pedigrees as hard as what I probably should compared to a lot of people. That pig was in the state, didn't go 20. I liked him, looked good, bred to him. And that was about the depth of thought I put into it. And so as everything's kind of gone on, it's worked out where, you know, it is actually some outcross blood. Chunk was the boar that we bought at Holy Smoke. Again, the sale's been good to us. In the 3rd round from Danner for like $1,500. And then I guess his first crop would have been, let me think here. He'd had the bronze Chester Bear at the city for Case. It's inside. So he was Chunk himself was a friction son, and I couldn't tell you what was behind that. Or hired man, hired gun, one of them things, I don't remember. Doesn't matter. That's good. This is one we call Timely. So that'll be the It's Time son we're going to keep out of this crop. He'll be an It's Time Glory Days Lighthouse. So 2 springs ago, we would have bought a gilt that was a choice lot at Lackey's sale. It was online. I think Sam Sam hit me up about the deal and I told her I'd trust her. Bid till you're uncomfortable, try to get her bought if you like the lot that much. I think it took $7,500. it worked out where Jason wanted to come look at boars, so he just brought us both of them gilts to choose. We dumped them out here in the grass and just looked at them and made the choice that day in person, and he was gracious to let us do that, and that'd be that boar's mother. I heard the other day that maybe the littermate brother to this one's mother ended up at McCoy's, that he kept around. Again, I think at that stage is a pretty close representation of what its time was. Big and brought up high, big hipped, still square. I always tell people, like even on its time, and I'll tell people on him, things got muscle. I mean, I wouldn't breed into them ones that are out a little further out there and expect him to make them safe. He's going to add shape and spread up high. I would probably breed him to ones that are probably just a little bit cuter looking. I'll be honest, his mom's so stout, she's ugly. Really loose built and comfortable and tough looking. She's not the prettiest thing that's ever walked this planet by any stretch. And so that's how we are going to utilize that one. Keep them stout, keep them square going away, keep their backs big, loose built. But we're going to have to watch them a little bit just on look up front. This is Magic Money. He'll be on 22. That's a blue Magic Money's on. We took a couple little pigs to Lackey Second Farm Sale there in Potosi, and Cobb showed up with this one. And I mean, we were always trying to hunt something that, you know, more magic. We bred magic to as many sows as we could. The reality is we had to sell juice too, and probably outsold what we should have, and probably should have bred more ourselves. So we got into sale season. We were keeping our eyes open if one presented themselves, and we thought that one's front end and head shape and the way his neck blends into his shoulder, and that one's profile, I thought represented the very upper end, and then really, really elite cob females. I thought that's the kind of look that one presented even as a baby. I would say from a siren standpoint, you might watch him a little bit just on early chub. Body shape was good early, but it took some time for him just to get chunky. And he's doing it right at the right time. That thing's got nothing but stouter and bolder and hairier the whole time. And never, as he stoutened up and massed up, he never got any less attractive up front. And so that's, in fact, I told Sam the other day that Timely's mom will probably get bred to him just to help elevation and look and still keep them big-legged and shaggy and all the good things. So this will actually genetically be the sire of the big chunk of our mature white program. That's the Nature Boy. That's the clone. I don't know, Nature Boy himself didn't know it's a thing. Reception of that boar and semen sales the first crop for an odd time of the year was incredible. And you know, when everything happened, we actually already had that boar DNA banked. Chloe Kemp's littermate brother to Nature Boy had won, gosh, I don't know, 15 shows by the time we DNA'd him. Littermate sisters had won a bunch in Arkansas for the Foster family. The very best one of those ended up being the mother of the boar we call Mirage, which will be out here in a couple more lots. But Nature Boy would be a Wham Last Dance. Mother would be the same mother as Till You Can't that you'll see here in a minute. The same mother as White Feather. Same mother as Champion York at Houston in 22. That sow didn't, in fact, we just lost her here about 3 days ago. She didn't owe us nothing. It was a sad day here, but yeah, as good as White Feather did for us, Nature Boy just kind of just built on it and kept going, and Nature Boy bred the White Feather daughters worked good. Daughters out of both them boars are doing tremendous for us. This is Mirage. This is the one I was explaining to some of you guys. This guy's pretty active. That's probably the easiest I've ever had to get a new one started ever. From the time we put him in the pen to the time he was done collecting was like 3 minutes. Like there was no effort, no trying to talk him into it. He knows what it's about. And in the process of ranting and running gates against some mature boars and different stuff, he tried to, here a while back, tried to jump, I guess, and get to the top rail, but didn't realize that all her panels are vertical rod and didn't quite make the top rod, and I think her rear leg slipped. He's favoring his right hip just a bit, but that's an environmental thing. But I'll tell you, his mom would have been Nature Boy's sister that the foster family showed in Arkansas. One of the only times that that Chloe Kemp's bear was ever beat was actually by his sister at one of them shows in Pryor that summer. She would have been champion York in the market show at Arkansas Youth Expo. In the market show, they showed her the next day in the crossbred guilds. I think she was reserve division 3 against all the belts. She just weaned a really good litter of figure 4s. One of the more impressive white females on the farm. That his mom may be the heir apparent to Nature Boy's mother herself. You'll start seeing a pattern in terms of skull shape and ear set, and the way them Blue Magics, they look like Blue Magics. I mean, there's not much guesswork in that. Once you see him, it'll make a lot of sense. There is a little blue dot behind his right eye. There wasn't any belt in that litter. Most of our white program, the Nature Boy and all of his sisters, and I would assume Snowman, I know it's the case, and I'm 99% sure all the Nature Boy sons will never have a calico or a belted pig. Don't breed them Nature Boy sons to belts hoping you're going to get belts. That's not going to happen. You will have light crosses. There's about a 3% chance that maybe Rally can throw a tick more color, but I'd be shocked if he throws a belt. This will be Snowman. He'll be a Wham top shelf. Grandma's a pure York that would have won the Yorks at Indiana State Fair in 22. When we lost Nature Boy, we were just trying to find something that would kind of fit his lane and where we were fixing to use him a bunch. Because that year, you know, Nature Boy was a winter-born hog. And when it came time to make them winter-borns, we actually passed a bunch of them over to turn around and breed them to him for summer litters, because we don't really breed many sows back-to-back the same way here. And so we were waiting. So luckily, he was right down the road here in Canadian County at Straka's. Went and looked at him, thought he kind of fit that same lane. Again, color was very, very reliable. I would say breed him to them kind of just more moderate, chunkier ones that just need more look, need to be sharper up high. Some of those more extreme kind of moderate ones that we bred him to worked very, very well. He did elevate him it didn't take out any cage or dimension or muscularity at all. He did us a dang nice job. Lots of gilts running around down on the floor that are going to work just fine. Be a Wham top shelf. And although there is a shot of belted blood in him from the top shelf, his mom is white. I made sure to go look at her. And like I said, to date, he hasn't. I'd be shocked if he can throw a belted pig. This will be figure 4. He'll be a Nature Boy Crickets that we would have bought from Leatherman in his spring farm sale. Actually, Boots texted me randomly one day, said, hey, I don't know if you're looking for a boar or not, but there's one here that's not only needs to be a boar, that's the way they're selling him. It was boar option only. What we were buying that day and the way he had it structured is the ultimate sale price was going to be for half interest, no possession. And we actually bought him with the intent of just leaving him at Leatherman, splitting semen sales, and just getting to breed sows to him. He reached out to me the next day and said, hey, it may be better for traffic and the sake of semen sales if we just put him there. I said, that's fine. He kept coming. We kept selling feed and got in a place where I called him. I said, do you mind if I go ahead and send you a check for the other half so I can just own him? He said, man, that'd be great. So it ultimately took 30 to own him in full. I would say of all the Nature Boy sons, that's the closest replica from the side in terms of the mass he has up high, his spread of hip, and still being that dang tidy and skinny necked. I would say Nature Boy himself might have been maybe just a tick stouter down low, but that'd be about the only difference, would be my guess. But that thing's just been impressive the whole time. Dad's old judging coach passed away there at Oklahoma State here this spring. We'd had him here maybe 2 weeks, and Dad come through to go to the funeral and saw him. And it wasn't 10 days later, he called and asked if they could buy part of him. I obliged and said absolutely, send me a check and whatever. So Wintex actually owns a portion of him. They've bred several to him here for state, I guess it'd be state fair litters that'll be on the ground. They're coming anyway. Oh, there's my buddy. This is In Theory. He'll be a bishop, forward, green bottles. His name came from the fact that I remember the day we were breeding his mama. Was a really good summer show gilt for us 3 or 4 years ago, and I was looking at the bottle of Bishop, and I remember looking at Keaton. It's like, well, in theory, this is going to be a home run. Like, the pedigree made sense. I mean, like I said, trying to get understatement and forward in the same pedigree and them red ones was always the goal. Bishop was an understatement son. He would have sired, was a champion red and like reserve grand at Louisville for that red oak deal. Came out of a bred from Goss that he sold in the Coronation. Ended up in California, and a Bishop got a piece of that. Bishop would have had like 4th overall Duroc gilt at Springfield this last summer as well. I guess it's easy to see from that side now that he's turned around, but he broke his front left leg in half like 2 months ago. He jumped up on the gate and somehow got it caught where the hinges are, and I mean broke it. The only reason he's still alive is I couldn't bring myself to shoot him in his pen. And after about 8 days, he dumped enough weight. He got up, went back to eat. And we've got pigs weaned out of him before it happened. He laid on his side for almost 2 weeks, and we kind of nursed him along, and he got up, went back to eating. About 5 days after that, I kind of nursed him around and got him on a dummy, and semen was fine. We went back to breeding to him and got Sal's bred. So before all that happened, that thing was actually very, very big down low, very stout. Like I said about further, that first red boar, he's going to kind of fit that same lane. Has a very similar head and neck to what Forward did. Before he got hurt and went to favoring that leg, his length of hip and rear leg set and the way he moved was as close to Forward's rear leg as we've been able to make. Was probably actually broader and more massive, as hard to believe as that is. That thing had muscle. Sharp looking, first litter out of him looks very good. That's there on the deck, so call that one In Theory. Bishop, forward, green bottles. This is Unit. I meant to look this morning to make sure, but I'm almost certain every Berkshire pig we'll have born this time will be out of him for these winter litters. And I'd say every single gilt, whether we have them on feed now, they're on the floor that we can breed him to, will get bred to him. That pig, his whole life, was one of my favorite ones for a Berkshire male. As far as what we're trying to do, skull and bone, and just an absolute monstrosity up high. One that's safe going away and big-legged, and I mean just ditched up his whole life. And like I said earlier, that's something that I just refuse to lose because I don't know where I'd go to get it in a purebred hog anyway. He'll be a reach high 12.5. If you read in the pedigree system, it'll probably read Chingalade. The reason we went with that name for his daddy is we sold a pig off the farm 2 winters ago that ended up being champion Burke and 3rd overall at the Indiana State Fair. His dad would actually be a litter-mate brother to that barrow. He was here, and he was actually down in the sow barn because we weren't intending on selling semen. He flued real bad, and it was a chore just to get him collected and jumped and started. He was always hurting pretty bad. We ended up, I think, just getting 3 sows bred to him before we lost him in this deal when he got moved up here. And so we named him Chingalade, but I don't know. Sam wasn't a big fan of that, so we just go with reach high 12.5. And then Mom would be a direct top shelf daughter that would have been a litter mate to reach high. We have 2 litter mate sisters running around to that boar. One of them would have been the champion gilt, Burt Gilt at OYE that Brogan Lancaster showed 3 years ago. And then there was another littermate sister that would have been champion Burke at the Northwest District in Enid that same year. That was a little bit more on the moderate side, and that particular gilt that won Enid would be his mother. Unit reach high 12.5 on reach high sister. with that white ear. I mean, so far we've had about 2 pigs out of all the litters that little bastard colored. But 2 pigs out of more than a dozen litters, I'll take it. I'll take those odds. So you might get a random one here and there, but
Will these be the first pigs you had again?
it's Blue Magic. Drip Wham Stomp. Would have bought him from Cobb's at the Second Kings 2 years ago. We've never been ones that go to them little pig sales or top conferences looking to buy boars. We buy when one hits us. We've never been ones that go look at boars based on who bred them and what their pedigree is. It's just something that just has to kind of fit what we're doing. That one fit the bill. It took $60,000 to buy him. Never thought I'd bid that much on a blue one. A lot of people didn't think they would bid that much on a blue one. What the other people don't know is how far I was fixing to go. If they would have kept going, he was coming to Oklahoma. There wasn't going to be much quit. That's one of the most impressive 30-pound pigs I'd ever seen. $2,000 a pound's a little excessive, but it's what it took that day. Maybe the most nervous I've ever been was last February when we moved him and its time into this barn after everything happened. And that first night didn't sleep real good. And I was up bright and early to come check on them. Skull shape of their front leg, forearm set, broadness. Like I said, the ones that are out of him, you can tell. I mean, their ear set and skulls very similar across the board. People have asked how to breed him. I mean, I'd say when we bought him, he was a little bit on the green side. I mean, I'd maybe look at some early just mass and chub and bloom. I would say here, he did fine in those areas. It just seemed like the sow, for $500 a dose, make sure she's standing real good. And that's about the only thing I'd watch, depending on what you're trying to do in color. If you breed him to belted, you'll get probably close to half the litter belted. You might get a random white one out of a sow, depending on what her recessive color pattern is back in there. You'll get blue belts and maybe a random white one with some speckling here and there, but he's getting bred to lots of belted sows too. So. For those of y'all that have seen that blue gilt we've been showing this winter's out of him. I like that pig a lot. This will be Till You Can't. He'll be Nature Boy Last Dance, so it'll be Nature Boy bred back to his mother, which again is the same sow that is the mother of the Champion York at Houston in 22. Same mother as White Feather. Probably resembles more mama than daddy himself. A little more moderate, broader hipped, body shape. So his mom, that Last Dance sow, is one of them first couple years that our Oklahoma Bred Show was in Tulsa. Brogan showed a white gilt that was reserve grand cross gilt. That would be his mother. I was a big fan of that critter. I want to say that would have been 21 maybe. It had to have been if we won the Yorks in 22.
How have you used him?
Kind of where I can genetically, to be honest with you. I haven't really bred him to a specific kind. It's just more where I think we can get it without getting too tight. Just because being a Nature Boy bred back to his mom, and so much of our program has, white feather moms or something like that. We'll probably breed him to Tarzan's mother this time, just because she's an Uncle Bob. That's like one of the very few white sows that's not related. or is very distantly related, I guess. She's far enough removed, I guess, from the rest of our stuff. She's kind of a fresh shot. But of those sons, he was one of the two kind of chunkier, more moderate, rounder bodied ones. You know, Nature Boy himself and his first crop, them pigs were very easy to sell, but they were a tick on the greener side. Him and the Rowley Boy were the two that were just bloomy early and had that going for them. This will be its time. Be a snap that, stay classy. Been our purchase two PTs ago from Trace. The first Thanksgiving we had him, my sister was actually in town, and for whatever reason, I decided to come down here and I had to grab something out of the show barn. And that critter right there was very, very sick that night. I don't know if he got bit by a spider or what, but I'll tell you, it took my daughter's EpiPen to save him. And in the process of all that, I never did get the swelling out of his hocks. It settled, and that's just, they are what they are. He still gets on a dummy fine and collects fine, but it's, believe it or not, the pigs out of him, rear legs incredibly good across the board there. I'll tell you, those are the most obnoxiously stout babies we've ever weaned off a sow. I mean, they're ungodly stout across the board. Again, a lot like I told you on Timely, I tell people I wouldn't breed him to ones that are out there on the edge and expect him to make them safer or lighter muscled. That's not where he's going to fit. I would say, and I don't know where in his pedigree it's coming from, but the sort on those, to be honest, be shape of their front leg. You can get, don't breed him to ones that are maybe a little further forward up front. As good as I thought he was when we bought him, and the more he aged, the more he settled into his front end, there is going to be a little bit of sort there. Outside of that, don't breed him to great big muscled ones that are almost too wide to begin with. Everything else he kind of takes care of. 3 springs ago, she was one of those 59 liter blue sows at Heimer's. We bought a couple of them, kind of brought in some fresh outside blood, and that's kind of where he got his name from, was just rallying the troops, as it were, to try to bring in some fresh genetics here and there. That one at fighting weight, when all them boars were maturing, was the moderate, really, really round body one. I think you can see that in his photo. Body shape was incredible. His broadness of back and depth of loin was where he was so impressive and why he never got cut. The heel of that thing's loin was like half of his depth of body. I mean, there's no telling what he would have scanned. I mean, he was gigantically broad-backed, ditched up, and very, very deep in terms of his loin edge. And I mean, the way it hooked up to his hip was incredible. He's built like a daggum shoebox. Everything was so square and broad and transitioned so very well. When it was time to kind of come through and have vets come through and take dew claws off a lot of these right before collection season, he probably took it the hardest and didn't recover as quickly as a lot of the other ones did, and just never really chubbed up since then. And I mean, them things are on 3% fat pellets at sow feed here, so we're never going to be ones that have them overly fleshy, but we've got a couple really good litters on the decks out of him. Them ones that need to be more moderate and just kind of not only made a bit safer down low, but at the same time just keep their edge in them and broadness up high and show bear proportions. He's done a really good job in those ways as far as what we've seen so far. But he kind of gives me an option, kind of like figure 4 does, although the top side's, you know, certainly out of the core of our program, the bottom side, outside of him and figure 4, there's not any crickets, there's not any cracker, there's not any of that other blood in our herd. It's always kind of just a fresh shot to give us in a place where we can keep doing a lot of our stuff internally without having to buy a bunch of juice. And most times if we're in a position where we feel like we have to use outside juice, it's with the intent of trying to make a son that's half out cross, so I can then circle them good sows back across, or them good lines that have been doing well for us. Here's another moment I get to be brutally honest. This is Dino. I don't know what to think of Dino. He's named Dino because he's always looked like a dinosaur from the word go. Believe it or not, for the amount of hair he's got, he shucked it all about 60 days ago. And after he shucked it, that was still the hairiest red pig I'd ever seen. He'll be a 305 out of Bishop's mother, so that'd be Here's the Deal on the bottom side. But ever since she weaned that litter, that thing was just so loose built and big footed. And if for no other reason, that's why he's here. Length of hip, comfort level, looseness of build. I will tell you, based on his mother and grandmother, he's going to throw more muscle than he has. There's going to be more broadness and more density there. But like I said, until hair isn't a thing, which I don't see that in the future ever, until looseness of skeleton and comfort level and big feet is uncool, that one's got a place. I asked some Duroc breeders here that come and saw him, I don't know, 6 months ago. You ever seen the movie Tin Cup? You know how he plays that one hole golf round with a 7-iron? He's not a 7-iron. He ain't for every one of them. He's more of a pitching wedge. It's situational. But I think where that one's going to fit, I think it's going to be very fun. This is Red Pill. He'll be a Bishop forward. Bishop forward, deal with it. So his grandmother would have been a gilt that Tegan showed in the summer of 21. That at like 190 pounds won Des Moines, that recovery show or whatever that CPS put on. She'd have been champion red and reserve grand there. And at that time, I thought that was the best red gilt we put together. Still think to this day we should have won that day. I was very, very fond of his grandmother, 9-5. His mother was the heir apparent to her and is to this day. She's still in the herd that he's actually out of her gilt litter. That boar's mother would have been the gilt that Kennedy, Keaton's little sister, would have shown 2 winters ago, that won the Reds at Coba, was 3rd overall, won the Piers at Southwest District, and a very, very impressive red female. I've always liked that one coming right at me. That one's broadness of face and the way his ears hang off the side of his head's just a true indicator of just broadness and stoutness and mass. And he's deceivingly long-necked for as round-headed as he is. Red Pill. Big bladed, still loose shouldered. Shape of his front legs is near as ideal as, in my opinion, is what I like and the way I like them to move up front. That one's going to get him very, very close. Rib cage and them things will be very good. Looseness of build. I'd say if you're going to watch him anywhere, depending on what your flavor is and the kind of pigs you like, they're going to be broad enough headed and massive enough. Maybe watch a little bit on just prettiness and them kind of breeding the little cuter ones. We're going to breed him to both kinds, because if I get a bunch of females that look that tough, it'll be just fine. To get out and move like that and motor and have that kind of mass, it'll be okay. We've got a half sister to him that's real young. She was a mid-late August type pig, maybe even September if I remember right. I think we've got her out one time. She's still a little immature, but that's still that same kind of noggin, length of neck. It kind of looks weird to have one that's long neck like that and still has that broad of a face and stout noggin. Last one will be Tarzan. One of those kind of names that's, as a guy that keeps boars around, you always got a Rolodex of names, and then there's those ones that you just kind of say for the right one in the right moment. Tarzan was a fitting name for this particular pig. He'd be a mate brother to the gilt we sold at the Gary Todd bought there at Tulsa. Gilt had an incredible summer for a white one. Maybe one of my more favorite ones that we've ever put together as far as a white female. She'd have been champion light cross at Tulsa and 4th overall. She was reserve grand at State Fair and champion light. She won the Southwest Regional. And we went ahead and let her go, and people asked me why I did it, and the reality is because this pig exists and I have 7 littermate sisters still. So I think we can keep making progress without her. This one's going to get a fair shot someday. I haven't seen every white boar that's ever been born. So I'm not going to speak for everybody else that's maybe seen more of them things than I have. But for me, that's as close as we've maybe ever gotten for one of any color, especially that color. I'm not going to tell you semen at the moment is not limited. Everybody that's seen him so far, it'll be limited in short order. Not because he's not making enough, just because there will come a day that it won't be possible for him to make enough. I already went over that. So his mom will be the Uncle Bob sow that would have had Tyson Price's Champion York there at San Antonio 2 years ago. Obviously, we talked about his sister. The litter of blues we're showing this year, those 75s. There's one in Minko that Case Brassfield has that was grand last weekend at Wynnewood, would be out of the same sow. The blue gilt that my kids have been showing. It's been third overall twice, won a show, been reserve grand once, to be out of the same sow. I would say maybe the only thing I'd maybe watch on him, just knowing what mama looks like, is maybe some of them could maybe be half a rib longer. Which, I mean, his sister was. I mean, she wasn't necessarily a real short-bodied, boxy thing. I don't know. I'm going to breed lots of sows of different colors of that thing and just figure out how to make them belted again later.